In this video, we'll be taking a look at 5 NBA games happening on December 20th, 2025, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 10 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 5 NBA games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start: if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Houston Rockets versus Denver Nuggets. The Rockets are still missing Fred VanVleet, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Tari Eason, while the Nuggets have ruled out Aaron Gordon and Christian Braun again. These absences are not new for this matchup, so both teams have had a little time to live with these rotations, which matters when you are judging how real recent results are. They just played on Monday, when Denver pulled out a 128-125 overtime win. And the Nuggets also took the first meeting on November 21st by a 112-109 score, so both games have been tight. Denver has now won and covered 4 straight against Houston, which naturally drags attention and money their way. That recent streak looks impressive at a glance, but if you roll back only 5 days, you remember that the most recent matchup needed overtime in Denver to separate them. That game looked like a fair snapshot of how evenly matched these versions of the teams are, which is exactly why the earlier price was close to a coin flip. The market told us then that there was not much between them, and nothing that has happened since clearly proves that the gap has suddenly blown open. What really shifted is how people feel about Denver, not what these teams are in terms of raw quality. The Rockets as an underdog are tempting because their talent level is high enough to hang around, but they are coming off a shaky stretch that includes that loss to the Nuggets and a loss to the Pelicans as near double-digit favorites, which leaves a bit of a sour taste. Honestly, that kind of recent wobble can stick in your head when you are asking them to respond on the road. On the other side, it is never fun to step in front of Denver at home, especially when they already beat this team twice this season and have 4 straight wins in the matchup overall. When we are essentially talking about a near pick-em price with the Nuggets in their own building, the path of least resistance still tilts toward Denver for the full game. As our first pick for this matchup, the Denver Nuggets to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. The Houston Rockets are averaging 120.9 points on 48.7% shooting and allowing 111.2 points on 46% shooting, which quietly paints them as more explosive than their reputation suggests. The Nuggets are even more aggressive on the scoreboard, averaging 125.6 points on 51.6% shooting and allowing 116.2 points on 46.6% shooting, so their games have not exactly been grinders either. Houston is shooting 39.9% from 3 and 79% at the foul line, while Denver is at 40% from deep and 82% at the line. When both teams are that comfortable from the perimeter and that steady at the stripe, long empty stretches are harder to come by. The Rockets are grabbing 48.7 rebounds per game compared to Denver's 44.6, which suggests extra possessions for Houston that can nudge the total upward, even if the box score feels relatively balanced. We have already seen these teams combined for 253 points in the overtime game and 221 in the first meeting, so the scoring ceiling is not theoretical, it is already on the board. Put all of that together and you are looking at 2 efficient offenses, both happy to shoot from deep, with enough shot making and second chances to keep the scoreboard moving for 4 quarters. That kind of profile usually leans toward a game that plays a little higher than what the number projects. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Indiana Pacers versus New Orleans Pelicans. The Indiana Pacers, sitting at 6-21, and the New Orleans Pelicans, at 6-22, meet in a non-conference matchup between 2 teams that badly need a win. It feels like one of those nights where both sides know this is a chance to stop the bleeding a little. The Pacers are still without Tyrese Halliburton, Ben Shepherd, and Aaron Nesmith, while the Pelicans have DeJounte Murray ruled out again. That injury report alone already tilts things slightly toward New Orleans, because one side is missing its main creator and extra depth on the wing, and the other is much closer to full strength. Not long ago, it looked like Indiana had finally found something, picking up 4 wins in 6 games. Then 3 straight losses yanked them right back into frustration mode. Only 1 win in 12 road games this season tells you a lot. Their last 3 away outings produced just 105, 89, and 113 points against the 76ers, Wizards, and Knicks, and that combination of low output and constant travel is mentally draining, especially for a group already missing its lead guard. For the 23rd time this season, they go in as underdogs, and they are just 1-5 straight up in their last 6 visits to New Orleans. That kind of history can get in a team's head, even if players swear it does not. New Orleans, on the other hand, has taken care of Portland, Chicago, and Houston in its last 3, which at least hints at some momentum finally forming. They are in a much better place health-wise than the Pacers here, with only Murray dealing with his long-term absence. Zion Williamson is active and putting up solid numbers again, and against a Pacers defense that ranks only 18th in opponent points in the paint, he is staring at a matchup that suits his strengths. When a star can play straight into a team's biggest weakness, it usually matters late in games, when every possession feels heavy. Bettors have clearly noticed. The Pelicans have covered 8 times in their last 9 games, so people backing them recently have mostly been rewarded. That kind of run can sometimes inflate a number too much, but here the spread is still described as relatively small, which makes their current form and health edge even more important. Indiana has shown some life and was more than competitive in that 1-point loss to a red-hot Knicks team, so it is not like they have quit. Still, New Orleans has been the hotter side in practice, with 3 straight wins and better vibes than a Pacers group that keeps limping through road dates. These are 2 struggling teams in the bigger picture, but only one is healthier, playing at home, and riding a mini surge of confidence. The Pelicans have Zion back in the mix, easing him in but keeping him available for important minutes, while the Pacers not only expected to be without Halliburton but also have depth concerns with Nesmith, Shepherd, and Toppin mentioned as out. On top of that, New Orleans has young pieces like Fears and Queen trying to establish themselves, and that kind of internal push often shows up in effort plays that swing spreads, not just straight wins. The Pacers' 1-11 straight-up road mark sums up their problems away from home pretty neatly. It may feel a little strange to see the Pelicans in the favorite role given their record, but they have just had their best week of the season, and Indiana's road form has been rough almost across the board. With New Orleans at home, healthier and playing with more confidence, they are the side more likely to cover this number. As our first pick for this matchup, the New Orleans Pelicans to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. Dallas Mavericks versus Philadelphia 76ers. The Mavericks are still without Kyrie Irving and Derek Lively II, with Klay Thompson listed as questionable, while the 76ers have ruled out Kelly Oubre Jr., Trendon Watford, and Joel Embiid once again. Dallas is coming off a strong showing and an overtime win over the East-leading Detroit Pistons, a result that surprised quite a few people. Next up is a quick 2-game road swing that starts in Philadelphia. With 6 wins in their last 8, there is real optimism around this Mavericks group again, at least on the surface. Still, you probably want a bit of caution baked in before Saturday's game in Philly, with Anthony Davis potentially missing this one because of an illness. He just had a monster double-double in the victory over Detroit, and his absence here would clearly be a major handicap for Dallas. Philadelphia will be on the second night of a back-to-back after a gutsy win at Madison Square Garden over the Knicks. Their consistency has wobbled, but they have managed a 15-11 straight-up record despite injuries chewing through the roster over the first 2 months. Embiid sat out last night with an illness, and there is talk he might return here, which would give the Sixers a big lift inside if it happens. They have handled this matchup well lately, winning 4 of the last 5 meetings and going 4-1 against the spread over their last 5 overall. That kind of pattern tends to stick in bettors' minds, sometimes a little too much. But it is still part of the story. The 76ers arrive with plenty of momentum and a lot of confidence after beating the Knicks, but asking for the same emotional peak again on a back-to-back is tough. The Mavericks, meanwhile, have been quietly taking care of business, putting together that 6-2 straight-up stretch and leaning heavily on Flagg, who you almost forget is only 18 the way he is carrying himself. Honestly, that kind of poise from a teenager can change the personality of a team. Even so, it is hard to fully trust Dallas here. Despite that 6-2 run, there are real question marks. AD might not play, Klay is managing a knee issue, and if both are limited or out, it turns into a game where rookie Cooper Flagg does most of the heavy lifting for the Mavs offense. On the other side, Maxey and company have been on a nice push, winning 5 of 7 and staring at a good chance to improve their home record. You can absolutely make a case for Dallas with the free bucket, since they have the rest advantage and are trending in the right direction overall. But the 76ers are coming off a feel-good road win at the Garden, and they sit at 16-9 to 1 against the spread on the season, which is a strong profile for a favorite. Maybe Embiid suits up, maybe he does not, but this team is covering so many tickets that it is tough to step in front of them at home with a short number. All things considered, the Sixers are more likely to win and cover as favorites. As our first pick for this matchup, the Philadelphia 76ers to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The Dallas Mavericks are averaging 112.9 points on 6.1% shooting and allowing 9 points on 46.3% shooting. The Dallas Mavericks are hitting 34.1% from beyond the arc and 75.2% from the free throw line. They are allowing 33.5% shooting from deep and pulling down 44.2 rebounds per game. The Philadelphia 76ers are averaging 116.9 points on 45.6% shooting and allowing 116.1 points on 46.4% shooting. From 3, the 76ers are at 36.2%, and they knock down 81.5% of their free throws. They are giving up 34.3% from long range and grabbing 45 rebounds per contest. When you lay those numbers side by side, you get a matchup where both defenses allow a similar efficiency, but fatigue, injuries, and usage patterns push things toward a slightly more controlled offensive environment. The 76ers are coming off a taxing game at the Garden and have to manage minutes carefully on a back-to-back, while the Mavericks still have key scorers on the injury report and may have to lean on a younger core for big stretches. That combination often trims pace, leads to more half-court possessions, and tilts things away from extreme shootout territory. With Dallas offense already wobbling around those averages and Philadelphia juggling health for its stars, it makes sense to expect a total that lands below the projection rather than another track meet. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Boston Celtics versus Toronto Raptors. The Celtics are still without Jason Tatum, while the Raptors have ruled out R.J. Barrett, and they are keeping an eye on Jakob Poeltl, who is questionable with back soreness. That alone already shapes how this one feels, because both teams are missing one of their main half-court scoring options, and one side might also lose its starting center on short notice. Boston rolls into this matchup with a lot of momentum. They were always going to be favored on the road, even with Tatum out, simply because their recent level has been that strong. Toronto, though, has quietly stitched together 3 good wins, and they get this game at home with more rest in their pocket, while the Celtics are on the second night of a back-to-back. That rest edge is real. Legs get heavy late in the fourth when you played the night before, and home teams usually feel that less. The Raptors stopped the slide with those wins over the Heat and the Bucks, and when you add in the schedule edge, you can absolutely talk yourself into their side. Honestly, that is the tempting angle here. You have the rest, the crowd, and at least some recent proof that they can hang with strong opponents. However, here is the thing. Boston has quietly been one of the hottest teams in the league. They have taken 9 of the last 10 games against the Raptors, including a 121-113 road win in Toronto just a couple of weeks ago. Matchups do not always predict the future, but when one team keeps getting the same answers on the same test, you have to respect that pattern. The head-to-head numbers are flat-out ugly for Toronto, and that is exactly why you would want a few more points if you were going to trust them. It might sound strange to lay a small number with a short-handed road team on a back-to-back, but the gap in recent form and matchup history still leans toward Boston. Even without Tatum, the Celtics have shown they can plug in other pieces and keep the machine running, while Toronto is still trying to string together a real run instead of flashes. So in this case, I am willing to swallow the short spread and ride with the Leprechauns on the road. As our first pick for this matchup, the Boston Celtics to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The Boston Celtics are averaging 116.8 points on 47% shooting and allowing 110.8 points on 45.1% shooting. They are hitting 36.5% of their threes and 78.5% at the free throw line. They are also giving up 37.2% shooting from deep and pulling in 43.6 rebounds per game. That profile says they score well, well, shoot efficiently, but can be a little loose defending the three-point line. On the other side, the Toronto Raptors are averaging 115.8 points on 48.4% shooting and allowing 113.9 points on 46.4% shooting. They are knocking down 36.3% from beyond the arc and 76.6% from the stripe. Defensively, they are allowing 33.8% from three and grabbing 44.1 rebounds per game, so they are actually tighter guarding the perimeter, but they still give up a fair share of points overall. Put side by side, you have two offenses that live in the mid-1 teens on most nights with solid efficiency from the field and capable three-point shooting. The rebounding numbers are close, which hints at a pretty balanced possession game rather than one side hogging all the extra chances. Even without Tatum and with Barrett out, both teams still have enough scoring options and enough efficiency in their averages that a slower, grind-heavy total would not really match the profiles. It is a little funny because the absence of star names might make you think of a slower game, but the actual season numbers say both sides play with enough offensive rhythm that points should still come at a decent pace. With each team sitting in that 115 to 117 points per game range and neither defense locking things up completely, the setup leans toward a game that pushes above the projected total instead of stalling. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Charlotte Hornets versus Detroit Pistons. The Charlotte Hornets and Detroit Pistons meet Saturday in NBA action at Little Caesars Arena. This matchup is really about reading the market and how perception shapes price, more than anything that happens on a spreadsheet. Detroit has been outstanding at home, sitting at 11-2 in their own building and holding the best record in the Eastern Conference in this setup. They look every bit like a legitimate contender, so backing the Pistons here feels safe, logical, and honestly pretty comfortable. That is exactly why the line sits where it does. Charlotte, on the other hand, brings almost no natural appeal at first glance. The Hornets are 9-18 overall. They have only 3 road wins, and most people talk about them as a lottery team already. Stack that next to Detroit's home dominance, and you get a very simple reaction from most bettors. Lay the points with the hot home favorite and move on. Odds makers know that instinct very well, so the number is stretched to reflect how popular Detroit has become in spots like this. Now, the Pistons absolutely have the tools to blow out the Hornets because the Hornets have been bad for long enough that the stigma is real. But there is another side to it. Detroit has failed to cover in 7 of its last 10 games, and they are just 2-4 against the spread in their last 6 as a double-digit favorite. That is the classic profile of a team that wins a lot straight up but does not always pay off when the number gets heavy. Charlotte is getting healthier, and that has quietly mattered. They have covered 4 of their last 5 and just beat the Hawks and the Cavs, which is a reminder that this roster does have a competitive gear when bodies are available. You also have to ask how eager Detroit really is to lay the wood in this particular spot against a team everyone thinks they should handle. Big home favorites can sometimes drift through games, especially when they are already sitting near the top of the standings. Detroit does not need to make a statement here. They just need to take care of business and get out of the building with a win. Charlotte, by contrast, walks in with nothing to lose and everything to gain, which is often when underdogs play their loosest and most competitive basketball. This is the kind of wager that leans into the idea that the market has stretched the line to match Detroit's image more than pure performance. When one side becomes the obvious answer on first glance, value usually sneaks over to the other bench. Taking the inflated points and trusting the math and the market dynamics makes sense here. As our first pick for this matchup, the Charlotte Hornets to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. Charlotte has stayed under the number in 17 of their 27 games going into Wednesday night. The Hornets sit 18th in scoring offense, 16th in offensive efficiency, and 22nd in tempo, averaging 99.2 possessions per game this season. That profile says they are middle of the pack on offense and not exactly racing up and down the floor every night. Defensively, they are 24th in scoring defense, 29th in field goal percentage allowed at 49.2%, 17th in threes allowed at 13.3 per game, and 28th in three-point defense at 38.5%. So opponents are scoring efficiently, yet totals are still leaning under, which hints at slower pace and some ugly stretches from both sides in their games. Detroit sits 9th in offensive efficiency, 10th in scoring offense, and 12th in tempo with 100.6 possessions per game. Even with a better attack and more rhythm, the Pistons have stayed under the number in 13 of their 27 games and in 4 of their last 7. That under-trend, paired with Charlotte's, hints at totals that are often set a little high based on reputation or ceiling, not the way games have actually landed. When you combine a Hornets team that plays at a modest tempo and often struggles to score cleanly with a Pistons team that, despite being efficient, has also leaned toward the under more often than not, you get a setup where a slightly lower scoring game makes sense. It is not that neither team can score, it is more that possessions and efficiency have not consistently added up to explosive totals. With both sides bringing strong under trends into this one, the more likely outcome is that the combined score winds up short of the number. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.